Welcome to another broadcast of Aging Without Wrinkles on the Artist First Radio Network. All past shows are archived. You can pick them up at artistfirst.com. And now out to your host, it's Harriet Tramer.
Hi, my name is Harriet Tramer, but you already knew that, and I'm your host for Aging Without Wrinkles. Now, to be completely honest, that title might be a bit of an overreach, as nobody really goes through life without showing the impact of the bumps and bruises they encounter. But the guest on my show will provide you with some valuable information about how you can mature with grace while helping others to do the same thing. And my two guests today are prime examples of that. Judith Eugene, who you will meet in a very few minutes, is the founder of the Ohio-based Loving Hands Group, which links seniors with experts in a wide range of fields, everything from Tai Chi to flower arranging. Judith, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Harriet. I'm glad to be here.
How and when did you happen to start Loving Hands Group?
The idea for the organization started about 7 years ago, actually, with the death of my mother, and it caused me to just take stock of my life and reassess my career path. My first career is in architecture, but I decided I wanted to do something giving back to my community more directly, and it took a couple more years, but I started the organization about 5 years ago.
Isn't architecture, would that be related to what you're doing? Because if you're talking about people living in their homes, isn't architecture a relevant part of that? Can architectural barriers work to prevent somebody from being able to live in their home?
Absolutely, and that is one of the classes that I teach, is about how people can modify their homes to age in place, and there are lots of ways to do that. And that's a good point that you make. Sometimes when we live in older neighborhoods, the houses just don't support us as we age, so there are things that we can do to be able to age in place and stay home as our needs change.
What would be an example of that? A chairlift, or what can you do?
Exactly. Houses that have second floors, chair lifts to get up to the bedrooms, which are usually on the second floor, modifying bathrooms and kitchens to make them a little bit safer, so installing grab bars, maybe for folks who are using walkers or wheelchairs, removing bathtubs and installing barrier-free showers that are easier to get in and out of, or perhaps in the kitchen a work surface that you could lower down a little bit, so that it's easier so you can sit while you're preparing your food, things like that.
Sounds like pretty simple things that people may not be aware of, but that are possible.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And then as people's needs advance and get more restrictive, we can do things like creating a bedroom with a bathroom on the first floor so that people don't need to go upstairs anymore, things like that. Those types of projects get more involved, but there are some more simple things that can be done also.
Mm-hmm. What would you say have been some of the most satisfying aspects of the work that make you feel that though it might be overtaxing at times, it is definitely worth the effort, that you are accomplishing something?
I would say just what I call our little daily victories. After every program, just hearing someone say thank you, or hearing them say that they learned something new, or something that gave them a good idea, or something that empowered them to make some kind of positive change in their life. Those little things every day help to keep us going. And also just knowing that we saw a need in the community that wasn't being filled. There is not another organization in the Cleveland area offering the types of things that we're doing. And so I'm very pleased that we were able to find something that people really need, that they find useful and that they benefit from greatly, and that we're filling that need. So that's very satisfying also.
Mm-hmm. Have there been times when you really felt discouraged, wishing you had never started this project, where you felt, hey, this really isn't getting anywhere?
Well, that's a good question, because this is the first time I ever started a company, and I think maybe I was a little bit naive about how quickly people would find out about the organization and make use of it. And it really does take a while to get your name out there. And since what we're doing is so different, there really wasn't a business model for us to follow. So kind of had to create the whole thing from the ground up. But now we just are celebrating our 5-year anniversary this week, and things have been really rolling since the beginning of the year, and all those seeds that we've been planting about getting the word out about the things that we do, and also the value of the things that we do and how it has helped people in these 5 years is really helping me to be very much encouraged about the project.
Mm-hmm. When you introduce older people to something like yoga or flower arranging or Tai Chi or whatever it is, do you find that they have built into them an attitude, I'm too old to learn? Is that a hard thing to overcome, these thoughts?
And you're right. I do hear that quite a bit. I'm too old to learn, or I can't see very well, or can't use my hands like I used to. Is it any use trying anything new? So what we do with all of our programs is we have a general direction, a general outcome, but we don't have specific details placed on that outcome. So we work with people where they are. One of my favorite stories has to do with yoga, and this was a couple who I worked with. They were 103 years old, both of them.
103?
103, and they were still living at home. And their doctor recommended that they try a gentle yoga program, and so they were very nervous about it, as a lot of people of any age who haven't done yoga are nervous about it. So I let them know that the reason that I chose to teach yoga is because it can be adapted to any situation. I teach folks in wheelchairs. I teach folks with severe cognitive issues, and so I worked with them. I met them, at their level where they are. I tell people I'm going to challenge you a little bit, but I'm not going to make it scary or complicated. And they really enjoyed it. They signed up for more classes. And as I was leaving, they said to me, "Thank you for treating us like people, not like old people." And that really touched my heart. And that's really the basis of why we do what we do, because everybody has the same needs. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be engaged and excited about their life. And that's what we're doing through our work.
Mm-hmm. I do yoga, and I must say I read an article yesterday, actually in the New York Times, that said, hey, I'm 63, I'm trying tennis, but what can you expect? I'm 63. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, wait a minute. Yoga age is not that relevant. It's alignment, it's persistence, it's patience, it's many, many other things that age does not have to touch.
Exactly. And when you think about, yoga was developed in India 5,000 plus years ago, and people do yoga from, as they say, the cradle to the grave in India. So, and it gets modified, along the way to people's ability and where they are in their life. And so, yes, that's great that you have that knowledge and understanding, because that's very true. It's just about doing your best wherever you are today, and everybody is different.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you deal with some of your clients, as we discussed and as we already knew, you may be having to overcome a lot of negative attitudes people have about aging. Do you also find yourself running up against the fact people were told up 10 years ago, you're clumsy, you can't be in our team, you're not very athletic? Mm. Do you find yourself running up against these things that are still in somebody's head?
I sure do. Yeah, the biggest one is flexibility. People say, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. And so, again, a lot of my job as a yoga instructor is that kind of damage control, letting people know that you may not be, and that may be true. They may not be, but you can only start from where you are. And so if people say, like you said, I'm clumsy, I'm not coordinated, I hear that sometimes too. And then with those people, we offer certain modifications. Well, here's a chair that you can hold on to while we do these exercises, or you can sit down, things like that. So just like I said, meeting people where they are, giving them a challenge, but letting them know that they can succeed. They can succeed, that not everybody has to look the same and do the same thing in order to get benefit from the program.
Mm-hmm. Now, but again, do you find people are often, even at an old age, having ghosts of what happened when they were a kid? They were told, you can't be in our team because you're slow. Do you find yourself having to go against that type of thing?
I haven't had that kind of thing specifically come up. No, people's concerns seem to be mostly their present health condition and, perhaps what people recently have told them that they can't do anymore because of the health situation that they're facing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever had an instance where somebody, how can I put this politely, they really couldn't do certain things? Like you tried to teach them yoga, or you tried to teach them that, and it just wasn't working, and you felt that it wouldn't be a very good idea for you to continue?
No, the programs that we teach, so yoga being one of them, all of our programs are related to the arts and holistic healthcare. So we find with all of our programs that they can be adapted to pretty much every situation. And I know enough about our programs and about the different things that our seniors are facing that if there is something, for example, people who are very far advanced, maybe in dementia or Alzheimer's disease, there are a couple of our programs that have to be modified in quite a different way, or maybe may not be appropriate altogether for more advanced stages. So those I know already off the bat that those probably wouldn't work. And that's a really good question that you asked, because the last thing we want to do is frustrate or embarrass anyone. So we're always careful that we're not getting someone in over their head.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us about when you began, who you have experts that you link up with these people. Does somebody call you and say, hey, I need someone to teach me this, or how does that work?
Actually, it is a little of both. Sometimes I'll come across somebody that's offering a really interesting service or program or class, and I'll decide to add them in, or I may have somebody say, hey, do you offer this, or have you thought of offering this? So it can come in both directions, yeah.
Now, what did you offer at the beginning, and what are you offering now? How has that expanded?
When I first started, the business was built around me as the only teacher in the organization, and so I worked on I've very gratefully been gifted with several things that I'm able to teach. So that started with me, and then since then, with the other 5 folks who are currently on our staff, we've offered a wider portfolio of services. So we have now someone with us doing Tai Chi, a couple of folks doing art classes, a woman who does laughter yoga, and then we also have a massage therapist on staff. So all of us are experts and have lots of experience doing what we're doing, because a very, very important part of our business model is offering the educational piece. So we're not just coming in and entertaining people for an hour. We really want to leave people with some education, with new skills and new knowledge, to whatever degree they're able to take that in and apply it to themselves.
Has there been any topic area that you thought people aren't going to be very interested in that, and it turns out that they are?
Well, what a really interesting program, a whole series of programs that I call our positive living programs. They weren't really on my radar screen, but as I got to know the seniors and talking with them, knowing them personally, and hearing about all the things that they are facing, this group of offerings came from that. And one of the ones that has been the most popular that I'm just really tickled about is called Making Lemonade from Lemons. And it's about dealing with things that we face as we go through life. So things like loss and change and grief and the different feelings that can bring up, the frustration, the anger, the fear. But as I started offering that program, I was a little bit hesitant about how well it would be received. But the seniors love it, because I think sometimes caretakers feel like, oh, I don't want to discuss the negative issues because I don't want to make them sad. But I think that what I've been finding is that the seniors really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these things and get these things out and find out that there is someone who understands what they're going through. And just the opportunity to talk can be very, very helpful to them.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating, because younger generation at this point, everything's fair game over Facebook, over whatever it is. Older people weren't raised with that. It may be a great relief for them as they mature to be able to break away from that reticence or kind of being stoic and express themselves. That might be a great relief.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of things that they've been keeping inside. Or, maybe things that they feel like they don't want to burden their family with. They feel more comfortable talking with someone like me. They feel like they can get it out, but that, they're not going to feel like either A, they're a burden on their family, or B, like if they're still living at home, a lot of people have fear that if the family finds out that they're going through some difficult times, that the family might decide to put them in, a group living community. So it may offer just another avenue for them to be able to express their feelings in a safe way.
I'm sure you realize you just brought up a very polite euphemism, group living community. Now,
it is. Yeah.
You kind of led me into the next question. Is the work you do in people's private residence, or do you sometimes work with people in independent living or assisted living?
We do both. So we work one-on-one with people at home. We also do work one-on-one with people in group living communities, and we work with groups in group communities. So when we work with groups in senior centers or assisted living or nursing care, we're usually brought in by the activities department or maybe the marketing department to work with the group of residents at a time. And then when we work with individuals, it's usually through the families or sometimes the attorney. If the person doesn't have a family and the attorney is taking care of handling the person's estate, sometimes they will bring us in to work one-on-one with folks, whether they're living in their own home or whether they're in assisted living or dementia care.
Okay, you just brought up another ticklish point. You did me a favor by bringing it up and not making me. The finances of this all. This is wonderful, but
Thank you.
The people you work with and you personally, I'm sure, are quite generous individuals, but your bills come due also. Do you feel you could help more people if you possibly had government funding or something that could help make your efforts more widely available?
I do think so, yes, and it's something that I have investigated because I do know, right now we are self-pay, and the reason for that, I've investigated going through the Medicaid waiver program and different funding sources, but unfortunately there just isn't a category for what we do to be able to offer these services. So So right now we are self-pay, but I have taken a look at some of the pros and cons of maybe restructuring as a not-for-profit organization. So the jury's still out on that one. Yeah,
that's a very ticklish point.
It is. It is. Yeah.
I mean, if you have someone who's older and barely making ends meet, or in a nursing home, because then their efforts get paid for by Medicaid, their care is paid for by Medicaid, what you do may be very wonderful, but it's not on track for them.
Right. Right, and that's definitely something that I would like to change, and it does bring up a whole other point about the value of caring for people's minds and spirits. I think that a lot of times insurance programs focus just on people's bodily needs, and not always on their mental and emotional and spiritual needs. And so I would like to see that changed. It's something that I'm working towards, because the work that we do definitely helps people on that holistic level, body, mind, and spirit.
Now, have you, in fact, seen an instance where you work with somebody, allow them to bring out their creativity, and their body became stronger? Reaching their mind affected their whole body?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. There was a woman we worked with who was, when we started working with her, I think she was 89 years old, and she was living in a group community, but she didn't have any family around. Her husband had passed away. He was taking care of her at home. He passed away, and so she needed to go into assisted living. But she was kind of a loner, so she didn't want to participate in the group activities at this facility, even though they were wonderful. They had a lot of programs, but that was just her personality. So her attorney invited us in to work with her, and the woman was spending all of her time in her room. She was eating her meals in her room. She just didn't want to leave, and she was going downhill pretty rapidly. So when we came in and started working with her one-on-one and just engaging her, the things that she liked to do, so I talked with her about the things that she used to like to do when she lived at home, and I started trying to recreate those to the best of our ability within this group community, and she really started blossoming. It was noticeable. She started coming out of her room. She was eating her meals out in the dining room with the other residents. She was hanging out by the nurses' station and talking with them. And really, her whole mood, her whole spirit became different and uplifted, and she was doing very, very well.
Now, to another ticklish question. People are often frightened by aging. They don't want any part of it. They don't want to hear about it. Have you found that the work you're doing has made you less frightened of aging and more accepting of your own aging?
That's a great question, but I may be the wrong person to ask because I've never been frightened of aging. I was very fortunate that I had a really good role model in my mother, and she was a very active senior, and even though she did have some health issues that she was facing, she had a very good positive attitude and made the most of it. And I think that good positive attitude has helped me in my teaching now with seniors to help them to develop more of a positive attitude. But what I have seen that has really encouraged me about my own aging and just the aging process in general are just really wonderful improvements, whether we're talking about senior centers or assisted living or Alzheimer's care. Improvements in the offerings that the facilities have, the programming that they have available, as well as just the design of the facilities, making things more homey and open to people. That's really, really a lot of wonderful progress is being made. It's not the nursing homes of the old days like that my grandmother was in. Those times, thank goodness, are changing.
Mm-hmm. They have to.
Yes, they do.
People have different options. They have to. It is a very different situation. I mean, they don't even call nursing homes anymore.
Right, yeah.
I mean, group living or whatever, or independent living or very assisted living. I mean, they don't even call nursing homes, which is probably for the better. Now, if people would like to get in contact with you, how can they?
The phone number or the website would be the best ways to do that. So the phone is area code 216-408-5578. And our website is www.lovinghandsgroup.com. And they can go to if they want to send me an email, they can go to the Contact Us tab at the top of the page, and that will have the email contact information.
Thank you very much. I'd like to remind my listeners to stay tuned because more is coming up. And also, for more information about aging, go to my website at htramer.com and stay tuned because more is coming. Thank you.